What up, guys? What's happening? Welcome into Creating Space. Really excited to get back in it. We missed you guys during COVID. Finally able to have guests in and be able to run the interview show, and I'm excited about the guests that we have in today. We got Nasar El Arabi. Say that the right way. I was worried about it, man. Didn't want to disrespect my man in any way, because this is the real estate guru. This is an individual whose hustle is at 150% at all times. And I'm really excited to have you into the Creating Space studio. Nas, welcome, man. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, man, first things first, thank you for having me, man. And I just appreciate being in this nice place. You know, I'm not used to nice things like this.
Listen, Wheelhouse Media Studio, I have to clean the floors just to be able to come inside the space, man.
Yeah.
So definitely lucky to be here in Wheelhouse Media. What's going on, man? What's happening?
Hey, everything is fine. I can't really complain. Just trying to get through what we're currently going through as far as COVID, current issues and all that, man. So, but everything else, man, I just try to be grateful and keep a positive outlook.
So let's start there, Nas.
Yeah.
Let's start with the Black Lives Matter movement.
Okay.
It's a huge movement happening right now, and it's so important, long overdue. And you've been a major player, specifically in the Charlotte market, using your platform and your voice for good, motivating individuals around you to take action, take charge. How are you feeling right now with the current status of the Black Lives Matter movement?
I'm pleased with it. I'm pleased with it due to the last tragic event with George Floyd. And I'm starting to notice more people and corporations are starting to say, hey, there is a problem over here. I'm ready to admit it. So when I'm going through comments on different people's platform on the internet and all through social media, people have made comments like, yeah, I knew it was a problem. However, I was scared to speak up in the past due to I was afraid to what my peers would say.
Right.
For me speaking up on these African Americans' behalf. But now it's like, hey, look, I'm ready. I'm just done. I don't care how you feel about me. This is wrong. There's obviously an equality issue.
Sure.
So, I'm pleased with it, what's going on. Now, you do have some corporations who are just speaking up because everybody else is speaking up. And I don't know if you're familiar with this, but as African Americans, we're the number one consumer.
Right.
We have, I believe it's like $1 trillion we spend per year.
Wow.
Okay. So when you have that amount of spending power, these corporations know, like, well, I need to please these people. Now, you do have corporations like Ben & Jerry, Nike, multiple others Amazon, who've been vocal for a long time. And you have more that are becoming vocal, but some are just on it for, just because it's the hottest new thing.
Current event.
But yeah, the hottest new current event. But with that being said, as long as we're getting awareness to the issues, that's what we need. We need awareness. Yesterday, Congress put some legislation in. We'll see how far that goes, and we can get some real change this time.
So what's been some of the response that you've been excited about thus far? Like, who's really impressed you, whether it be a brand or a celebrity or a friend? Who's really impressed you through this entire moment in time?
Okay, so, all right. I'm not going to put it, let me say this. Black and white people have impressed me. Okay, you have black people who are leaders in whatever space they're in who will never speak on a social issue or any type of political issue because they're afraid they might offend their white audience.
Okay.
So they just stay in that middle road. So it's just countless people this time around that I'm impressed by.
Wow.
That have actually used their platforms to post, even if it's as small as posting the blackout picture or the George Floyd picture, even if it's as small as that, they've finally done something, which I'm happy about. So it's all about just pushing awareness.
Absolutely.
Just like how much traction the Me Too movement gained, which was great, and we needed that.
Yep.
And I don't know how you grew up or where you grew up at, but I was a full-grown adult, probably in my late 20s, and from being single and meeting women and realizing how much they all went through their whole lives.
Sure.
And I'm like, yeah, that is wrong. And with that movement, look how how many people they were able, to get justice served.
Join the conversation, right?
Right, enjoying the conversation.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, this is what we need. So we, as far as the Black Lives Matter movement, and just more corporations speaking on, just like, look, everybody doesn't get equality. We have to admit that. We have to have that conversation.
Yep.
There's an original sin in America.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have that conversation before we move on. And until we have that conversation and get the facts out, we won't get anywhere. So we have to have that conversation.
The most powerful narrative, in my opinion, on the internet right now is Shaun King.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Shaun King?
Absolutely.
I mean, absolutely the modern day sort of Malcolm X, so to speak, using the internet in such a way to generate a revolt, right?
Yes.
And a revolution. It's been incredible to watch that happen. What are your feelings on sort of those types of pages or humans, activists who are using their page and generating sort of those types of visceral responses from individuals to wake people up?
I mean, it's needed. All right, let me just give you a few examples. The Ahmaud Arbery case happened in February.
Right.
That situation happened in February. It got to social media in April, all right? April started to gain traction on social media and going viral.
Yep.
I want to say probably end of April or May, that's when they got charged. There was the local police department had that case for 3 months, I believe. It's like February or January. They had that case for 3 months, okay? They told the family, hey, well, he was breaking in the house. He was in the midst of breaking in the house, and someone was making a citizen arrest. And by that person making a citizen arrest, he fought back. The person defended themselves and killed them. The video hit the internet. He was not breaking in the house. He was running down the street, okay? He's a jogger, so he's running down the street. They blocked him off, tracked him down, and basically murdered the guy.
Yep.
So you have Breonna Taylor. Breonna Taylor was the African-American woman in her apartment asleep, probably getting ready for work. She was an EMT worker. The police, dressed in plain clothes, did not announce themselves, busted in the door looking for someone with a warrant, okay? Busted with somebody, so somebody had a warrant out for their arrest. The boyfriend who was living there was armed, legally armed. So he shot one of the officers. Officer started shooting back. She got killed, okay? He's thinking someone's breaking in the house, and legally he can't defend his property, right? Well, not defend his property, but he's scared for his life. Somebody's breaking and entering, right?
Sure.
So with that being said, they charged him for the assault on the officers. They said, oh yeah, we announced ourselves and charged him and gave him all these charges. This happened, I want to say this happened in March or so, February or March. Due to people like Shaun King, they got it out. It went viral. Like the first week of May, his charges got dropped. Okay, and it came out that the person that they were looking for was already locked up,
Already in jail.
so he's already in jail.
That's egregious, man.
So basically what happened with these two officers this is how I grew up in my neighborhood. They just said, hey, we're gonna get this guy. They didn't call in the check. They didn't get nobody's permission.
Right.
They were just gonna go violate rights by any means necessary. They were gonna get whoever they were looking for. And by them doing this, they end up killing somebody. And as of today, they're still not charged.
Wow. I didn't know they still weren't charged.
Those two cops are still not charged. But to answer your question, we need those people like Shaun King who are out there constantly putting out those messages, because we're talking about, all right, so the first Civil Rights Act was passed legally on paper in 1964. Second one is 1968. We're in 2020, we're still dealing with the same stuff.
100%. It's just being filmed now.
It's just being filmed now.
Yep.
That's all it is. We're still dealing with the same stuff. We're just being filmed now. And so we just need those pages like Shaun King and the many other pages who put those out there, those social media leaders who have big followers who put that out there so that people can do anything. Like I'm on Ebony and S's email list, and And when these issues come through, I clicked on it. That's how I learned about the Breonna Taylor thing and then Sean King and all those things. And I actually donated money to the cause.
Sure.
Yeah, man, we have to have those issues. And it's so bad. You cannot discuss Black history without police, CIA, or FBI involvement. You cannot discuss it. It's those agencies are involved throughout all of Black history. There's no era of Black history you can discuss. And just to give you an example of what I'm saying to you, slaves arrived here in 1600s. Okay, so 1600s, that's allegedly when slaves first came. Some people say as early as 1400. Okay, so when the slaves were kidnapped, raped, murdered, the worst thing, this is a new form of slavery, the worst form of slavery known to man that ever happened. All right, when you hear about slavery in religious books, no matter what religion of you, it's more like an indentured servant type of thing.
Sure.
Yeah, this is like real hardcore, like this was never before done, right? So with that being said, all right, so slaves got here. They then, same thing you have today, the media, well, the leaders at that time were pushing to the white people who are already here and basically saying, hey, be careful of them. They will rape your wives, rape your daughters. They will steal. They will lie. They will cheat, etc. So watch out for them.
There was a monumental movie that was made that sort of depicted African Americans or slaves at the time in that way that led to the revolt or like the formation of the Ku Klux Klan. It was incredible how the media at that time, where there was no television, right? It was only main screen stuff.
Yeah.
Had created a painting or a
Absolutely.
picture and a narrative on the Black community, and it completely shifted in a meta way the entire society's viewpoint, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it still holds true today.
And it still holds true today. So yeah, we're talking about a 400-year plus issue. So with that being said, you the poor white people who couldn't afford slaves, what they would do is they would be slave catchers. Right? They would be slave catchers. That's how they would make their money to bring them back to the people who actually could afford slaves. Now, throughout all time in history, yes, you had white people who said, this is wrong. This is wrong. And look, y'all can hide out here. Hey, look, I'm not going to do you like that guy over there. I do think this is wrong.
Right.
So that's where the origins of the police came from slave catchers. So 1863, 1865, the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. Now, in school, they tell us and basically like, yes, Abraham Lincoln signed the bill, slavery over, everybody go home, bye-bye. That's not exactly true. What happened was the Union, after the Civil War, the Union had to walk on plantations and actually physically free these people because the slaves couldn't read and write, because it was illegal for a Black man to know how to read and write. So they couldn't read and write, they didn't know. So the slave owner was not going to tell them, hey, you guys are free, I can't have you no more. And the Union would walk around the plantations and free these people. All right, so from there, the slave owners were actually, upset. How you doing us like that? Slave owners got reparations. Black people never got the 40 acres in the mule. That never happened. All right, it was a promise, never happened. It was said, but it just never happened. Slave owners got reparations, okay? Then from there, let's say by 1920, there were multiple successful Black communities, multiple across the whole country. And when I say Black communities, Black-owned hospitals, Black-owned banks, just everything you
Colleges,
need to.
HBCUs started to
everything.
start. Yeah.
They had everything. So, and HBCUs, some of them was founded by Black people, some of them was founded by white people. Some of those white people had great intentions. Some of them was basically like, hey, look, I don't want you over here at our school, so we'll do a school for you over down here. So with that being said, you have multiple successful Black communities, also known as Black Wall Street. Okay, it was multiple Black Wall Streets. The most popular one was Tulsa, Oklahoma. That was bombed by the U.S. government. A white guy said he got jealous and said, "Hey, one of those Black people raped a white girl, So fights, wars started, and then the government came in and bombed the whole community.
Yeah.
All right. So
Wow.
yeah, and so you have that. Now then you have lynchings. 80 to 85% of the people lynched were successful African Americans, whether they be business owners or successful doctors, wherever they are at that community. It was sending the message. So fast forward to this day, you have, and I'm 37, fast forward to this day, I have met black people from the South, black people that told me that their grandmother said, hey, when you're moving out there to Charlotte, don't disrespect the white man. Wow. Don't look him in the eye. Because that whatever happened then was passed down.
Generational.
It's generational.
Yeah.
So me personally, I was born and raised in Jersey. I've been out here since 2008. My grandfather actually buried Malcolm X.
Wow.
My father was a pallbearer for Betty Shabazz when she passed, I believe, in the early 2000s, I believe that was.
Betty Shabazz is Malcolm's wife.
That's correct, yeah. So my grandfather buried Malcolm X, and due to that,
There's a great documentary on Malcolm X.
Great.
On Netflix.
Great.
I'm on episode 3 right now.
Yeah.
He was unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
He certainly was.
Great. So and once you get through that, you're gonna find out that law enforcement had their hands involved in that death.
Correct.
Just like with MLK, the family settled with the CIA in the 90s or something. So this is what I'm saying. I want to keep going because I can go on and on with this. You cannot discuss Black history without police involvement. You just can't.
Sure.
The lynchings, the police were involved.
Yep.
The bombing, the U.S. government was involved of a whole community, whereas you can have wealth. Are you familiar with Ivanka's Trump husband, Jared Kushner, okay? It was either his grandfather or great-grandfather. His father was starting building in the 1920s, inherited 2,400, it was like 2,400 units, okay? He's heavy in real estate.
Sure.
Yeah, so like 2,400 units. His father inherited that. Now, not taking aside, his family did the right thing with the wealth you're supposed to do. Now, you're well-traveled, you know people, you're probably not from here, and you know like-minded individuals. So just how people can sometimes get jealous of people who inherit the stuff, there are other people who inherit this stuff and blow the money, but nobody's jealous of them.
Right.
Absolutely not. People are just jealous of the guys who kept the money.
Sure.
So there's nothing wrong with his grandfather, whoever it was, did the right thing and accumulated these units and used the laws that benefited him. Nothing wrong with that. Okay. So he inherited about the father inherited 2,400 units. Fast forward, Jared Kushner has an estimated net worth of $800 million. Okay. But at that same time, his grandfather accumulated these units. It was illegal for my grandparents to own property. It was illegal, the law. They couldn't own property in certain places. The South was under Jim Crow. So therefore, my great-grandfather, he was living in South Carolina. Wherever he was at in South Carolina, it was illegal for a Black person to own land. So every time he got money, he would buy land in a place called Lumberton, North Carolina. Okay. He accumulated 200 acres. Okay. He accumulated 200 acres. He sold some of it to like a tobacco factory, to build. And he had a house because his thinking was, hey, look, as long as the family he had multiple houses on it that they built with his hands. As long as the family have somewhere to live, we'll be all right. You know, we don't have to depend on anybody else for anything. He died poor because at that time, a Black person wasn't allowed to be rich.
Wow.
That was the law. You couldn't be rich.
Sure.
So even though, let's say that the tobacco company would have paid a white man probably 5 or 10 times more, by law, I can only pay you this because you got all the money, man, you know? You can accept somebody, you might end up hanging from a tree.
Right.
So, yeah, it's just that and that's what you call systematic oppression, right?
Yeah.
Like it's systematically done. And I'm in real estate. I'm a full-time real estate investor. It's 2 neighborhoods in Charlotte that I know of, right? One of them being Dilworth. Now, if you know anything about this neighborhood in Charlotte called Dilworth, some of these houses can go like a mil plus. The appreciation over there was crazy. However, you find a house with the original deed, it will say, and I'm gonna sum it up, no color person can stay here overnight unless they're working. 68 civil rights allegedly wiped that out on paper. But of course the mentality was still there for the people.
Wow.
So sometimes people say, hey, why don't you guys have anything? Why don't your parents and all this didn't pass anything down for generations like we have done over here? You couldn't.
Weren't allowed.
You weren't allowed to.
Weren't allowed.
So yeah.
Important. This discussion, man, it's an important one, man. And I've just been reaching out to some of the best friends that I ever had. I grew up in hip hop culture, man. I was raised by hip hop culture, bro. And so, you know, I've been reaching back out to my best friends growing up. Talk to me about your experience. Where you at? The common denominator is I need you and more white people to ask more questions, to have more conversations, to call us up and to educate yourselves and start with us. We're your low-hanging fruit, right? We're the individuals that can teach you more and so on and so forth. Other than the conversations that we can have with our friends or the documentaries that we can watch to educate ourselves, what else can we do as white people to disassemble the white privilege?
Okay, so, all right, basically, and let me just say this, it's definitely not all white people, right?
Sure.
So when I'm saying white people, we're just talking about the ones who maybe don't know, all right? Because the way I grew up and the way that some of my white counterparts grew up, they couldn't imagine, they just couldn't imagine like the police just throwing you to the ground in your own neighborhood, you know, violating your rights, you know, just ragging you up, smacking you up. They just can't imagine that, right? And we have no voice to speak on our behalf. I mean, right now, the way the conversation is going is like, we finally got to listen to ear. Like, hey, these guys are really, systematic racism is really a thing. The condition that these people are in today was systematically done. It was intentionally done.
Yep.
So in order for us to fix it, we have to intentionally fix it.
Yep.
In order to intentionally fix it, we have to just look at history, get ready to discuss it, and like they did yesterday, we're gonna push this legislation and on behalf of these people. We just have to, because at this point it's just out of hand. So as far as white people, just listening. And I understand when I moved down here in 2008 in Charlotte, North Carolina, when I moved down here in 2008, I told my friends, hey, I understand that why white people don't believe us when we talk about police brutality, when we talk about discrimination, especially police brutality one, because down here, when I got pulled over, I was actually doing something. I was speeding. You know, those things happen. It's like license registration. All right, cool. Gave it to him. You know, if I fit the description down here, hey, you got any ID on you? Like one time I was in my apartment complex. Hey, you got any ID on you? We got a call somebody. I was like, no, I don't have. I'm going to the garbage. That's my car over there. He run my plates, asked me my name, the apartment. All right, you can go. But in my environment where I growing, oh no, the cops is not asking you anything. They taking everything they want. They're gonna throw you over to the ground. They're gonna put your knee on your knee. That knee gonna be on your neck, similar to George Floyd. That's something they do up north. And then they'll start asking you questions why you can't talk. You know, but they're gonna lay down the intimidation first. That's something they do first. So people who grew up, you know, in a predominantly white neighborhood, the cops were there to make sure that the laws were enforced, you know, and everything else, and everything was going orderly, right? And orderly conduct and everything was going right the way it's supposed to go. In my neighborhood, the cops was there to make sure we didn't break crime. So it was two different approaches. Unreal. But you know, just far as what you know, what white people can do is just basically just you know just listen. That's all it is.
Continue to educate.
Continue to
have the
educate.
discussion.
Have the discussion.
Continue to protest.
Correct. Yeah. So
right.
A lot of white
And
people
keep the conversation and whatnot at the forefront. We can talk about it all day.
Right.
Right. But for the gift of the show, people have to know about you and your story, man.
Cool.
And you're a beast, just like your shirt says. Multi-million dollars, real estate portfolio, sort of self-taught from what I can understand, which I love. Let's talk about the first things first. I believe in mindset. I believe in myopic singularity focus, man. Putting your mind on the ball, eye on the ball, and never removing it from the target. You talk about that at some points in some of your videos and whatnot, but who built sort of the engine that you have, the work ethic that you have? Where did that come from before you've aged into where you are now in real estate?
Okay, all right. So let me just say this. I want to do just correct you. I don't want to say I'm self-taught. There were multiple people, white people, black people, Hispanic people who helped me. People help people who help themselves. I mean, and one woman, shout out to Lori, she's watching this, but one woman, we were partners. Years later, I gave her a card and one of those Android pads or whatever the case may be, and she's like a hardcore Republican Trump supporter.
Okay.
All right, and not racist at all, at all. And she helped me so much, and she always told me, "Hey, yo, I just wish more people." She never said like one specific color. She just talking about people in general. More people will get up and work like you want to work.
Yeah.
So it's multiple people who helped me, and thanks to all those people. I want to get to. I wanted to correct you on the self-taught part. But as far as getting that mindset, I got to give a lot to my father. Growing up, my father would not let me quit anything.
Okay. And
I couldn't quit nothing. One time I dislocated my elbow, had to get surgery and all this, and I wanted to quit. Came home to mother and father and said, "I ain't playing football no more." Not only did they make me continue playing football the following years, they made me go to practice. I couldn't practice, but I was still part of the team. They made me go to practice. They made me go to the games.
Yeah.
Next year, the following year, I was hoping that they forgot about everything. I didn't have to go out there. They made me go out there and play, just having that mentality. So what really started there, I was never really, I never read books, high school, college, graduated from college and everything. I never really read books. My mother passed at 97, and my father remarried in 2000. And I don't have like a sob story or anything. My father, we were middle class. It's just that the New Jersey is so expensive, you can still be middle class and still be in the hood.
Right.
Yeah, especially if you're black. It's very segregated in New Jersey.
Wow.
Just very segregated. So anyway, with that being said, it's just my father had that mindset, and I didn't know what he was placing into me at the time. Now as I'm older, I realize, what he was placing into me. But I was about 26 working in the call center down here, making about $12 or something an hour. It was terrible. But
wow.
Talk to the site.
Cold calling every day? That's your job?
This was incoming. This was incoming calls.
Incoming calls, got it.
I was taking like 100 plus calls a day in this call center. It was terrible. And talked to the site director, told him what I was doing on the side with buying rental properties. He said, "Man, you should read this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad." At this point, I realized that I was tired of listening to me, because listening to me got me here. So let me read this book. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, man. That changed my life.
Wow.
At 26, it's changed my life, and I learned about creative real estate. And
when you say creative real estate, talk to me about what you mean by that.
Basically buying and selling real estate with no money and no credit, not using realtors, not doing things out of the box, not the traditional way that we know about.
Sure.
So yeah, and I learned about that. And
so Robert Kiyosaki opened up the matrix to you.
There you go.
Changed your life.
Yeah, and you know how like when you put certain things in your mind, you attract certain people.
Absolutely.
I was reading the book at the call center. This guy said, "Oh, you read? Yeah, it's a good book. Yeah, man, I'm from Ohio, I was in the RIA. I was RIA, what's that? A Real Estate Investment Association. They got one down here. I said, they do? I immediately joined the
You
RIA.
were like a magnet.
Yeah. I immediately joined it. And from meeting the people there, it was on the pot.
Game was over.
Yeah.
And that was how long ago? You said 2008, so almost.
So I read that book 26, so I want to say that was like 2010. And then in 2012, I got fired from my job. I was making 38 grand a year. That was the highest paying job I ever had. Making $38,000 a year. Fast forward to last year, we grossed about 1.9. So, yeah.
All right, so fire from your job.
Yeah.
Okay, most people cannot deal with the discomfort of what it takes to start a business and sustain not knowing what you're doing and beginning an entirely new journey where you have no mastery, starting at the bottom. What was that time like in your life where you stepped out of your $38,000 call center job and moved into creative real estate?
I ain't gonna say I stepped out. I got pushed out.
You got pushed right
I got
out.
pushed right out. Get out of
I kicked you right out.
So, what it was, man. All right, and I tell people this. So your part-time hustle should soon become your full-time hustle. So basically, your 5 to 9 should eventually turn to your 9 to 5. So I already knew, I had my heart set. I've been wanting to be a real estate investor since I was 19. So just how like a lot of people in my neighborhood, they wanted to be, rappers, actors, etc. I wanted to be a real estate investor since I was 19, literally. So with that being said, at that time, I was already doing a deal here and there. I just didn't have to do a full-time where it was survival mode. When I got fired, it was straight up like, okay, so now I got to do this. So after getting back from my grandfather's funeral after being fired, the reason why they finally cut the puppet strings, I asked for some time off to go see my grandfather buried in Lumberton. All right. I was already on like third write-up. So it was one of those fires that you knew was coming.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Not, I knew it was coming.
Only a matter of time.
Just a matter of time. It was stressful. Every Friday they bring me in the principal office. I felt like a kid. All right, this is your progress report. I need you to improve. Okay, I got one more week. Then next Friday and so on. Until finally they said, all right, this ain't working. All right, great. So with that being said, they end up going to the funeral and came back, and I just knew I had to work. I knew what I had to do. I was already doing it, but now it's full time. The worst thing people do is if they quit their job or get fired, come Monday morning, they're sitting at the table twiddling their thumbs.
They don't get to work.
They don't get to work. And so you're already behind. That plan should have been in place.
Yep.
To take action and do whatever you wanted to do. So me, after I got back from the funeral, let's say if it was a Monday, I just got back to work. It is what it is. So I got back to work and
So who'd you tap into at that time? You needed someone to teach you real estate investing. Who did you tap into?
I was already learning. I already had the partner. So the person I was working with, we were just, all right, I'm full-time now, so let's go get some deals.
Right.
And
first thing you did, start driving for dollars?
Yeah, driving for dollars. Definitely was driving for dollars. And I already done deals, so I was buying lists at this point and mailing homeowners, see if they're open to selling their property. And okay, so I didn't tell my family that I got fired for September because I didn't want them to worry about me.
Okay.
Because sometimes family can bring doubt, but not like in an intentional negative way.
They want to protect you.
Just want to protect you.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you're right, you need anything? No, I don't need anything. I'm a grown man, I'll be all right. So with that being said, got fired in September. That November, I made like 10 grand. So I'm ecstatic. That's when I tell people I got fired. Hey, I got fired a few months ago. But don't worry, I made 10 grand.
I made 10 grand, it's all good.
It's all good. I'll be fine. So I was, at that point, that's when I told people. But it was just, I already had the knowledge. I already had the people around me. It's just, leveraging those relationships full time now.
So we talk about embodying identity. So important, man, for you to really believe it, right? Because if you believe it, then every action you take is going to be in that direction.
Absolutely.
How did your identity shift, and how excited were you to tell somebody, asked, hey, what do you do, man? I'm a real estate investor.
Yeah.
Was that empowering to where you were? Like, do you believe individuals who are shaping and shifting their identity have to use their words and believe it truly internally for them to start attracting opportunities and attract the new reality that they're hoping for?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You gotta believe it. I tell people all that's the most important piece. I tell people, hey, look, all right, before we work on getting these external results, let's fix the internal you. Get into reading. I got heavy into self-development at 26.
Okay.
Heavy into it.
First book you read?
You said what?
What was the first self-help book you read?
Oh, first, so after Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it was Think and Grow Rich. Okay, Think and Grow Rich. And then I read both versions, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, which is more relatable to me. It's kind of crazy. Tim Ferriss, he said that book changed his life, Think and Grow Rich, The Black Choice. It was more relatable to me by Dennis Kimbrough, great author. And I read that, and those were like the first, and then I would just, if they would recommend another book, get around people who read it, they recommend the book. So it was just I just got into it. I cut off cable for 2 years. Cut off cable for 2 years.
All in.
Yeah, I was all in. I needed a life change, man. I could be in the call center, man, or working a job. I looked at people, I'm still in my 20s, so I'm at that time, I'm looking at people 5, 10 years, 20, 30 years my senior. And I'm like, yo, I don't want that.
Sure.
That's not what I ever envisioned for my life. In my household, it was, I grew up inside my household, be proud of who you are. You can be anything you want. Martin Luther King said, be the best at whatever it is you do. My parents are great from a kid, engraving this into my mindset. So the only limitations I had were self-limitations that I put on myself. It wasn't from my parents or anything like that.
Right.
It was just some limitations that I put on myself. So with that being said, I just had to, get into this self-development is extremely important, okay? It's really, you just have to do that piece, have to get into reading. Now, when I was reading, I started reading back, so 26, that was like 11 years ago or so. They had the books on CDs. That was a thing at the time. I don't know if you youngsters know what the CDs are, but cars used to come with those CD players.
Yeah.
So they had the books on CDs. So I used to listen to the books on CDs, going to work. There was a few podcasts around. It wasn't a common word at that time.
Sure.
Few podcasts around. But now, fast forward, Audible. It's right on your phone. You can just listen to books if you don't have time to read. But just correcting that internal piece is extremely important. So for example, just going to give you an example. I got this cup, it says keep going, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what this cup says on the outside. If I put a hole in the bottom of this cup and put a Band-Aid there, all right? It's a temporary fix, and put water in there, the water's still gonna come out.
Yep.
I have to fix this cup, completely fix this cup, get it molded back together, and so that the water that gets poured into it stays in there. So instead of using that word water, let's say positive energy.
Yep.
Stays in there. If there's a hole in the bottom, doesn't matter what this says on the outside. If there's a hole in the bottom of it, the positive energy will just flow out and won't stay in the body, man. So you got to correct that internal piece.
What do you use to keep your positive energy tank full?
Now, while I'm working, watch positive YouTube interviews, and
Sure.
videos. Certain people I definitely follow. Shout out to my man Max Maxwell, personal friend of mine. And
What you guys are doing together is monumental, man.
Thanks, yeah. Me, him, Chris Jefferson out there in Richmond, Virginia. They're good people.
Is he the subject to guy?
Well, they all do subject to, but no, Chris Jefferson, he wholesales, but he's a builder out of Richmond, Virginia area. I kind of made a slight comment. I was going to tell him about, it was a joke. I've never been anything nicer than this, but his studio's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yours is nice, you know what I mean? But Mac's stuff is nice, it's really nice. But anyway, with that being said, just being around, watching Eric Thomas, a hip hop preacher.
Sure.
You have all these new motivational speakers, and following on my IG feed and my Facebook feed, I got like-minded individuals. So I get positive energy
Pouring
from that
into you, yeah.
and inspirational stuff.
Inky's that guy, man.
Yeah.
Inky Johnson.
I like Inky Johnson. And guys like, Wallow 267, all that, just getting that positive energy into you, because just having your social media feed with positivity is important. And I try to explain that to people. You can't have, if you're a woman with all these, if you're a woman user, it's not good to follow other women who you feel is perfect. All right.
Sure.
I don't know if you know about what's going on, but it's like women are looking at these other women who have surgery and then tell them, hey, I'm working out, come buy this drink. And
Yeah.
you know, and women are looking at these other women and getting this surgery, not necessarily for men, it's just because it's messing with them internally.
Sure.
And for men, the same thing. You following these guys who rent Rolls Royces and all this and put their lifestyle on IG, or you just have half-naked women coming down your feed. You have half-naked women coming down your feed, you're putting that into your mind. What happens when you put that into your mind? Then you're gonna speak that and then you're gonna act upon that.
Sure.
We have to focus your energy into whatever goals you want to achieve. So just having that feed with positivities, man, is extremely important, man, for both sexes.
Great message.
Yeah.
As we round this thing out, it's been amazing to dive into it, man. Where are you headed now? You've gotten to a place where I'm sure conceptually you always said you wanted to be, but you're kind of at the place where in 2008, 2012, you wanted to be. So where are you going now?
I mean, at this point, and we had this conversation in my group chat, at this point, I still want to, I'm still going from transitioning to, taking that 7-figure gross to a 7-figure net.
Okay.
All right. That's important. I want to get that done, but I want to get into development, man.
Wow. All right.
I want to get in development. I want to just basically move up in the real estate ranks. Just, get into everything I've been doing thus far for the past 13 years since I've been involved in real estate has been residential. So just want to step up, get into commercial stuff, get into holding apartment buildings and things of that nature, man. But it's just all about growth and just, moving up in the ranks and making things happen.
Do you have a time when you're trying to put that down? You have a benchmark where you're trying to make that happen?
Absolutely. You got to put dates and times on goals, absolutely. But, I definitely have a 3-year time period for the apartment complexes that accumulated multiple. But however, on the development thing, I'm working on that now as we speak. It's not just me talking. I'm actually working on putting the things in place and getting the connections, man. And I'm a part of a development mastermind, man. It's when you think stuff, it happens.
Yep, 100%.
That was it. So yeah.
Well, I have to say, man, I'm completely inspired by you. I'm getting myself into the real estate investment game as we speak. And the first individual I asked, I said, "Who's the guy doing it in Charlotte?" And they directed me to you. And after doing my own research and downloading myself on everything you're doing, I'm just extremely impressed and honored to bring you on the show, man. It's been fantastic. And I hope we can continue to keep this discussion of Black Lives Matter at the forefront, as well as if at any point I can swing over and say, hey, look, some investment questions, what are your thoughts, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah, definitely. So. Yeah, hit me up, man, you got any questions, man? But yeah, this is something I've been dedicated to. I mean, my mom marched with MLK, during the 60s. Amazing. And when I say march with MLK, I meant in days when you say, hey, we're marching, like she would, they would skip school and go out there and march.
Right.
Like this stuff, my family actually are for progress. They've been for progress. So it's just something that was just handed down to me, man. And like I mentioned earlier, man, I grew up calling Grandpa Bury Malcolm X. The reason he had to bury Malcolm X, yes, he was Muslim. However, at that time, there was basically that warning sent out. Nobody better not bury him. Nobody better not doing that. But my family is just not scared people,
sure.
So he did the burial for the family.
That's amazing. I saw that burial in the documentary.
Correct.
On Netflix.
Yeah.
Man, Nas, it's an honor to have you on the show. I'm impressed by everything you've got going on. Where can people find you who are watching the show, who might not have heard of you yet? Where can they find you? Where are you spending most of your time online? Okay,
so online you can find me on IG, Real Estate Duru. That's Duru, D-O-R-U. I call myself the Duru because I'm not a guru. I actually do this business. Some gurus just sell stuff. I don't just sell stuff. To be honest with you, I don't sell anything right now, but houses. I actually do this business, so therefore, I'm a Duru. So IG, Real Estate Duru. YouTube, Real Estate Duru. The blog, realestateduru.com. The Facebook group, if you have any real estate questions or want to learn about real estate, The Facebook group is Wholesaling with the Duru.
Killed it. Guys, I'm honored to have him here. Go give him some love. Subscribe to that YouTube. He's always putting out educational content and is killer. And thank you so much, Nas, for coming into the show.
All right, you're welcome, man.